Hi guys, this is Alicia Marie, and I'm coming to you live on 9/11. It's a day that I will never forget. I will never forget where I was 16 years ago. It seems like odd that it was so long ago. I was doing a campaign job actually, because I work in politics, and I was out there canvassing for a candidate for school board here in LA. And it was the weirdest experience. I mean, waking up early because there was no social media, and I woke up and I didn't even know what was going on. I went to vote that morning. It was a special election in September, and went to vote, and they had the TV on. I was like, what the heck? Because remember, again, no social media. We didn't know. I mean, barely email. So we didn't have, word didn't spread. I mean, now, the first thing I would have done is check my Facebook and be like, oh my God, the heck, But we didn't know, so I was like, what the heck is going on? And we didn't know, and I had my little radio and had to work that day. And I remember the first time I saw what happened. The towers crashed. It was very sad. Very sad. And so what, I was in shock. I was with my friend I was campaigning with. I remember her name now, but I'll never forget that day. But we just stared at each other when we saw about by noon, when we saw it crash in, And I was like, what the heck is going on here? So I wrote a little short film, or a feature film actually, called Me, Us, and Them. And I've divided that short into a short film, and this is my short story version of it that I want to read to you, just so in honor of all those who passed and who gave their life for responding, and who are still struggling, and for the daughters who lost their fathers, and sons who lost their daddies, and the wives who lost their husbands, and everyone who's just getting on with their life now. We remember. We shall never forget. The war is another thing, but we shall never forget that day. So here goes, people. Me, us, and them. Fire, fog, chaos, and loud noise. That is what our childhood is all about. Oh, and loss. Always lost in the background, making you who you are, challenging you to get beyond. But you can't do that. You can never forget that loss that forms who you are, who you became. Losing a parent is always hard, but on such a huge scale, it's even harder, You look for a little bit of light to guide you from the darkness. You take what you can. Jimmy Jr. I often wonder what had been different if my dad had lived. Who would I have become if he lived? What if, happily ever after? But then I think of not knowing Dill or Tim. Then what if again? No, we will never forget those people that died on that September morning. Just people living out their daily routine, not knowing that it was the end, that they would never know their unborn son, but thinking and dreaming of their future. I cry because there is no rewind button, and even if there was, could I give up that only dad I knew? What if? What if? Tim. I fell in love with her right away. Our circumstances were different. She loved him, and I was getting a divorce. Not many people knew that. How could I tell them? It seems so cold, but it's true. When she died, there was no love lost, but I pretended there was. Who wouldn't, right? Though I got to be more of a father. If Kathy had lived, I know that I would have seen less of my little girl, after family became more important. Angela and I bonded, and our love grew slowly through the pain. Slowly we grew and became a family. I was there for Jimmy's first words, taught him to ride his bike, and healed his broken heart when his crush didn't like him back. I did what any dad would do. Slowly, she, Dill, Jimmy Jr., and Jen all became one. We became one. No, we will never forget. How could we? But through that pain we formed an unbreakable bond. We still deal with that pain, and the memories that helps us to have true love. Jen. Sometimes I feel robbed. I was 6 when my daddy died. When I was 6 when my mommy died. Old enough to remember bits and pieces, but too young to see it all in color, and old enough to feel the guilt for forgetting. I had 2 moms, Mama Kathy and Angela, the one who cuddled me and waited up all night after prom and heard all about my first crush. I used to say Mommy went to heaven, but Mama Angela is here now. As hard as it was on me wondering and crying myself to sleep, I remember Dad crying himself to sleep too. It must have been harder on him. I'm glad he found Angela, though. He made it easier for her, and all of us. No, I can't imagine life without Angela, Mama Angela, and Jimmy Jr., and Dill, my Irish twin. Dylan. Fuck those bastards. I wish I was the one to give it to Osama. I volunteered for the Marine Special Forces because I remember that morning. No, I didn't get the role. I'm just glad someone got him finally. I was 6 when my life changed forever. My dad was taken. I know he was a hero. He loved football. That was his game. We played every Sunday and watched it on TV every Monday until Mom made us turn it off, I think that's what I miss most. No more football after that morning. Sounds weird, I know, but that's my memories of him. I wonder what I would have become if Daddy Jimmy hadn't died. My real dad, we called him. My mom encouraged that so we wouldn't have no guilt, and Papa Tim, the one who cuddled me and waited up all night after prom and didn't have that same passion for football. Not really. I think Mom liked that, though. I still played in high school, but it wasn't the same without that passion. My passion was getting the bad guys, I used to say Daddy went to heaven, but Papa Tim is here now. And I still got to get the bad guys for Daddy Jimmy. As hard as it was on me wondering and crying myself to sleep, I remember it was harder on Mom. And I'm glad she found Tim. He made it easier on all of us. No, I can't imagine life any different. I just want all those who killed Daddy Jimmy friggin' dead. Man? Dead. Angela's story. He looked like a movie star. Jimmy Jr. was my first love, the father of my babies, and if that day never happened, we would still be together. We were that couple. People ask us, how can you fall in love again? Then, if you found your soulmate. Yeah, I found my soulmate, but I know Jimmy would have wanted me to be happy, I just know he would have. I know it sounds like a movie, right? But it's true. What I felt for Jimmy or feel for Tim doesn't take away from the love for either. No. When I look at my baby, I think of Jimmy. Jimmy Jr. just looks like Jimmy. But he acts like Tim. Where Dill looks like me and acts like Jimmy. 100%. He has the same behavior and passion of Jimmy. But there is a softness. I think he gets that from Tim, Then there's Jen. She's my daughter I never had. I know she had a mom, but I get to be there for her and giggle with her. Get her ready for her wedding when she gets married. Like I can't with the boys. So that's nice. That first time she crawled up on my lap, I melted. She was an angel. It was hard for sure, but, you just lose a little bit of that pain and forget just a little bit every day. No, you never totally forget. but it sure helps to find a love that makes you whole again and brings a little light back to your life. That was Tim. Whenever I hear Jimmy Jr. Whenever I hear a fire truck, I think of Papa Tim. He would always watch the news every night at the end. He always would say, "Where's the fire?" There's storm chasers and fire chasers. Papa Tim was a fire chaser for sure. He knows where all the fires were and all the details. He would sit in the bed and I would sit next to him and smile up at him as he talked with such passion about the fires. I couldn't help but feel that same passion. I would research with him where the fire was. Was it uptown or downtown, or which captain was fighting the fire, and why he was the best for the job. That was Papa Tim. Mom would smile and watch us. Losing Papa Tim was hard. I think even harder than that day on Mama. Tim was a victim of 9/11 too, just like all of us, but he got the lung cancer from fighting at what they called the beginning, at the towers, that day and months after, all those long months. Gosh, I never knew my dad Jimmy, like I said, but I had 20 long years with Papa Tim. He fought it longer than most, but he had that will to live. He didn't want to let us down, but in the end, 9/11 took him too, like it takes the rest of us every day. It's something you never forget. No, we'll never forget. And as he took his last breaths, I heard the fire engines, like they were honoring one last time a hero. And I knew that Papa Jimmy was looking out for Papa Tim, and that someday we'd all be together again.